Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to the Sticks in the Six podcast, episode 235 on this Wednesday afternoon. As always, I'm your host, Andrew Forbes, here with my co-host, Peter Barricchini. And as always, Peter, if you're joining us over on the TikTok channel, make sure you jump on the YouTube channel, hit subscribe, and you'll get both sides of the conversation, not just this ugly mug. Anyways, before we get into all the fun news, and it's been a big week for the Toronto Maple Leafs, before we get into all of that, how you doing this week, my friend?
Oh man, fun doesn't begin to describe the week or even the last 48 hours or 72 hours for the Maple Leafs right now. It's been great, man. Obviously, as you mentioned, couldn't do a show last week because of a little bit of a conflict in my schedule. Tuesday night, I had a concert I went to, and I'm just going to say, you know me and my live music. I've been wanting to go to a lot more live shows and everything, so I went to Motionless in White and Bring Me the Horizon down at Scotiabank Arena, and man, holy hell, I don't remember seeing a show that great in a long time. Like, just the atmosphere, the energy from the crowd, the whole entire show itself. It was like a whole elaborated futuristic story, and it got the crowd involved in the involvement. And I don't remember seeing a show that great in a long time. I think up there was always the Metallica Avenged Sevenfold, the show I saw at Rogers Center. But Bring Me the Horizon, definitely up there because of that. And there was not one song where the crowd did not stop singing. It was from beginning to end, every single song. I want to give a shout out to Ollie Sykes, the lead singer, and the whole entire band, because they had that crowd going from start to finish, and that was a fantastic show.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. I know you and your live music. I know you and your music overall. It was always good when we had you and Alex on, because you guys had that kind of music and culture
share that same
aspect of it too. So it was always good. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this week's been riddled with controversy and big news, and can we say a win at this point as well?
Let's go with the win. Why not? Let's say it.
It's not often you get a win in the offseason in hockey, but the Leafs managed to get that done. And, big shout out. You got Via Canada over here saying tree living for GM, thanks to Brandon Carlo. In obviously a somewhat sarcastic way, as the Leafs had a tumultuous season. And in saying that, earned themselves a top pick this upcoming draft. And we're going to get to that in a sec. But I just want a couple quick news notes off the top. We talk so much about the PWHL and how important women's hockey is and the growth of women's hockey. They just announced that they will be expanding to Detroit, which the Motor City. This is going to be a great move for the PWHL, and we've had a few PWHL players on this podcast before, so it's always a good conversation with them in one, where the game was and where it's going, but how the part that each individual plays within the growth of that league, and to have a stable league that they have now, to see the growth that they're seeing, to see the money flowing in, the support that they have, it's such an important thing, and it's so fantastic to see them grow the league once again this season, heading into Detroit for the 26-27 season.
And to have that series and matchup every single time in a big city, to see where and how great the crowd is, that definitely helps out to not necessarily minimize their decisions in terms of what city's going to work, but there's always one or two that stand out, and those are the ones that gain the most attention. And Detroit is definitely going to feel like it's going to be a vibe when their PWHL team hits, because sports overall in that city is just absolutely fantastic, and great that they're getting a professional women's hockey team.
Yeah, and with the move of Little Caesars up there too, they've got that hub of sports entertainment area. So it's definitely a big city for their sports. Via Canada also mentioned that it's a matter of time till PWHL hits Chicago. No doubt, absolutely. I don't
Chicago and Colorado could be the next ones.
Yeah, I mean, heck, even you could argue Utah would be a good place, the way that they've adopted the Mammoth, and I'm sure Ryan Smith would look at bringing them in as well. So, anyways, we do have bigger news to get to than the PWHL. In this capacity, that we are a Sticks in the Six Maple Leafs podcast. Anthony over here does mention that the Habs do play tonight at 7. Yes, big game for the Habs, big game for the Sabres, but we
Canada's
had
teams.
Canada's teams, but we did have bigger news. We did have bigger news. And it's interesting because those teams heading into the second round right now only need 12 more wins to win the Stanley Cup. 12 is a much bigger number for the Maple Leafs this afternoon, as 12 was the ball that rolled up to the top of that, whatever machine you want to call it, the lottery machine.
The fixed machine, let's call it that.
Yes, and once again, the Leafs become the most hated fan base in all of professional sports when they land the first overall pick in the 2026 draft with just an 8.4% chance of landing it. They are going to be likely selecting first overall, but before we get to the trade possibilities, the pick possibilities, Peter, your initial reaction when you saw that the Maple Leafs are choosing first overall?
Oh man, I don't usually swear a lot on here, but I let it out the biggest "Are you fucking kidding me?" moment. I was like, I was just hoping because I saw the other numbers below because I didn't want one of those teams to move up because that'll automatically push us down. So I was looking at like Seattle's number. I'm like, I'm hoping not for number 4. I'm not hoping for like, what was it, 8 or 3 down below. I couldn't remember who had the odds or who needed the ball to win the lottery. And as soon as I saw 12 pop up, that's when I just let out the biggest F-bomb right then and there. And again, I was really happy for that. I think every Leaf fan was happy for that, given the season, what happened along the road. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of uncertainty because of that pick, because of the conditions. Yeah, I know Voice of Canada said thank you, Brandon Carlo, for that, but through no fault of his own, like it was all on the GM for putting the conditions on that pick and making it a little bit more difficult. So when I saw that, going into the draft, I really just wanted the top 5 pick. I wanted 5th overall. If we got first, great. If we got second, great. I just did not want that pick to go to the Bruins because of the conditions, because of the rivalry team, because of the complications after that, of what could follow if we didn't keep the pick, what would happen next year, the year after that. Really ecstatic. No other way around it. And I think this is probably the best case scenario in, like I mentioned, the last 72 hours has been kind of a grim place because of the media, because of what storylines are coming out, because of Chayka, because of Sundin and not Sundin, because of Matthews and all that. We needed this positive momentum. We needed something to basically take this fan base out from the dark and give them some light, give them some hope and some positivity. I think this is that moment right now. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about Chayka and Sundin, but I think it makes their job a little bit more easier and compelling when trying to dictate a plan right now. And I think it starts with this draft pick. It starts with winning first overall, and it starts with by either selecting Gavin McKenna and or Ivar Stenberg at this point. Most likely it's going to be McKenna, but we will dive in a little bit more after that. But really, ecstatic because of the season, because of how bad it was. Yeah, it was a little bit tough down the stretch too when they were winning games and our tank odds were taking a hit, but it kind of worked out for the best. And, we were wondering if, we lost that pick, is Treliving ever going to see another day to be a GM again? Don't know about that. That's still up in the air. But at the same time, we needed that pick. We needed to stay in that top 5. And luckily we got first overall.
Yeah, no doubt. Gary says, anybody else go looking for fan reactions from other fan bases? Absolutely, Gary. I was scrolling through. Yeah. I don't think you can miss them. Whether it was, Vancouver fans, and I don't know if you saw the video of their little get together out in Vancouver and the massive letdown at the sports pub, but it was crazy. It was crazy to watch.
I do feel bad for Vancouver fans.
Yeah.
They have not selected first overall. I mean, and this is, I think, what I thought I saw the 3rd time where they had like the best odds and they moved down. I that does suck. I do sympathize with Vancouver fans.
Yeah, no doubt. V of Canada says he was at the TFC game and chants of Go Leafs Go started. So good to know the fan base is still strong and loving the team. Also, McKenna has to rock number 12 jersey if Toronto drafts him.
That'd be 7-1, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the ultimate chirp. Gary says, I think we pushed the Leafs curse off to the Bruins and we're finally free. Yeah, View of Canada. That's the video I'm talking about. Farhan Lalji's video.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my initial reaction, I was actually at work. I saw CJ's tweet and I was like, I had to go kind of searching because I was like, there's no way this is actually real. It just
You
started.
had
It
to
was like
make sure it
7 o'clock.
wasn't. You had to make sure it wasn't an imposter, CJ. Like a lot of those fake accounts buying check marks
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah. And then of course, a guy next to me, he sat there and he's like, no fucking way, no fucking way. He's like, the
Yep.
Leafs got the first overall pick, and he was talking to his wife, and his wife, like the like half excitement, like I know what you're talking about, but I'm
But
not as excited as
do
you.
I care kind of thing?
And I turned to him, I'm like, is that real? And he's like, yeah. And that was my initial
Yeah.
reaction, but um. I got offside hockey here on TikTok saying glad we were through that long dark rebuild. It was hard, but we made it through that long dark period.
Yes, same.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, we made it through. It was longer than I would have liked. 82 games long, and it was
And
longer than I would have liked.
even the weeks leading up to it, I told you how I did, or you saw that I did the odds of Leafs keeping the 5th overall pick, and I ran the simulator 40 different times just so that I wouldn't have like fan bases or other fans be like, oh my god, this is rigged and everything like that. But you know what? Every single time leading up to that draft, I had to do a couple hits on the Tankathon simulator, and most of the time, it kind of did work out.
But with all of that
But
came the hate and the controversy from other fan bases, including Hunter over here on TikTok saying that the Hawks should have got it, the league should have rigged it for the Hawks. Look,
I actually thought that would happen because of Bedard and McKenna being, relatives.
right. So look at this, and let's agree that with the Leafs winning the draft lottery,
Mm-hmm.
there was going to be the headline everywhere except for in Toronto was the lottery is rigged, regardless of who you talk to,
Even
regardless of
though
any other
all
fan
it
base.
lied,
Sens fans are actually like absolutely crippled over this the last 12 hours. But had any other team won that lottery, like let's say nobody's talking about San Jose getting the second overall pick, right?
and
They're
they have
talking about the fact that this team is going to be a legitimate contender and
they have
win
an
three
abundance
straight
of
Stanley
bridges
Cups.
already.
Exactly. So that to me is like obviously we knew that was going to happen. The whole idea of, but it is a business. The NHL needs to do well, and let's face it, the
Mm-hmm.
NHL does well when the Leafs are in the playoffs.
Yeah,
So, as Hunter
and now
said
that
over
they're not in
here,
the playoffs,
yeah, as Hunter said it over here, all it took was 1 year to get that rebuild done. He's hoping that next year Bettman rigs it for the Hawks, or as I mentioned, maybe you trade the first overall pick to Chicago for the third overall pick and Connor Bedard. I'm just kidding. I know it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen.
I was about to say, man, I'm kind of poking the bear there a bit.
There you go. Look at Spike. It wasn't rigged. It was destiny.
Yeah, Spike.
Hey, I saw this crazy tweet. Okay, the last time the Leafs won the first overall pick in 2016, so 10 years ago, the Blue Jays lost on the road to the Tampa Bay Rays
Right.
4-3.
4-3.
Yesterday they lost to the Tampa Bay Rays on the road 4-3. If there's anything more destiny, I haven't seen it because that was shocking to me.
I think the other thing that went along with that was I think Drake was coming out with a new album in 2016, and right now he's coming out with a new album in 2026.
And the Raptors were playing the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round.
And they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round too.
Yeah, so you name it. I haven't seen a more destined first overall pick in a long time. That said, we got to talk about what the Leafs are going to do with this first overall pick. There's a lot of conversation. Obviously, we'll get to the GM and this new VP of hockey ops that Sundin took on, but we have to discuss what's going on with this first overall pick because Chayka does have a history of making moves with draft picks, albeit not on a team where you're trying to convince your star player to stay. also not in a situation where you're coming in as maybe one of the more controversial GMs in recent history, and you've landed the first overall pick in, again, a controversial draft lottery. So the unanimous pick for most, and I say most because there's a lot of people out there that are I guess I shouldn't call it unanimous. The favored pick for number one overall,
projected favorite, yeah,
is still Gavin McKenna. Now, Canadian kid, maybe can let things roll off his shoulders a little bit. Might be the one thing that intrigues me the most about him coming to Toronto, is that he has that personality where he quite frankly, doesn't give a shit.
Willie Nylander vibes.
Yeah, very Willie Nylander vibes. He's been through controversial stuff over the past year, dealt with it like a pro. In fact, came back and was better on the ice because of it. And again, this whole idea of a Canadian kid wearing the maple leaf on his chest. The one argument against it might be the overall development of his game. And when you talk about pure skill, Gavin McKenna is right up there with some of the best. He can get the job done inside the offensive zone. His hockey IQ is incredible. His vision's incredible. His skating off the charts. It's his 200-foot game that might have some questioning whether he's the right first overall pick. And this is maybe one of the closer drafts we've seen in terms of first to second in quite some time. And I say that because you and I both know that Ivar Stenberg had an incredible season in the SHL. And to boot, he might be a guy that might put up more, I want to say, Barkov-esque numbers where 80 points is possible, but he's also going to play that 200-foot game, and he's played against men, developed his game, and still had success at that level, albeit overseas. So with all of that kind of compounded and at the forefront of your mind, if the Leafs were to keep that pick, who would be your first overall pick?
It is a very, very tough. Okay, I'm going to give it a little bit of context too. I've had a lot of people come and say that this is kind of like the whole Matthews-Laine debate in 2016. There was a little bit of talk where maybe Laine could have passed Matthews, but it was still Austin Matthews, the overwhelmingly favorite to go first overall, and that wasn't even a close discussion at best. Right now, I think this is a bit of a different circumstance because you have two talented wingers, but do different things right, or do things right within their own game properly. And I went back when we talked with Brock Otten too to talk about the whole Gavin McKenna situation too. It's the progression and development of his game that is really stuck with a lot of scouts and a lot of people in draft circles because of how well he was adapted. Yeah, it was a struggle from the beginning. Maybe we were putting a little bit too much pressure on him to start. But as the season went on, even before the incident, he was showing that willingness, that physical play, the willingness to battle, compete a little bit better. And that's what we wanted to see. Yeah, he has the skill. He has the puck sense. He has the playmaking abilities to open things up. That's a little like we're seeing comparables on the lines of like, he likes, watching or compared himself to Nikita Kucherov, Patrick Kane, and everything like that. I just want to point out a little quick funny quote I saw earlier today from Evan Render. Watch how Gavin McKenna's comp has gone from Nikita Kucherov to Bates Battaglia in 12 hours from like other fan bases as a result of that. Shout out to him because I had a good laugh at that.
Leafs great, Bates Battaglia, eh?
Leafs great, but also wouldn't surprise me that other fan bases would actually say that. At the moment, his development this season, it has been has progressed very well, and that's what you want to see in a prospect. Now, we've also had this debate on Prospect Corner with me, Matthew, and Dayton over at the Hockey Writers. McKenna probably has still the highest ceiling, and maybe in the first year or two, it's a growth and development for him as well. But if he gets to that point, you're looking at a 70, 80, 90-point playmaker that could do a lot of damage. 5-on-5, especially on the power play, you name it. Defensive game still isn't there. Yeah, it's a work in progress, but again, we saw that a little bit more with college this season. Ivar Stenberg, however, like you mentioned, like I have the pleasure of watching him all year and see his development and consistency against men at the SHL level, he kind of feels like the pick you play or you get now. And I know everyone's going to say Chayka can Galaxy brain this, but to me, this is an interesting debate. Stenberg has a lot of pro-ready qualities right now. I do mention that compete, that work ethic, that smarts, that driving ability in the battle and strength that he has to win board battles, as opposed to Gavin McKenna, where maybe it's not that great, but we've seen a little bit more of an improvement and him be a little bit more aware off the puck. Stenberg had a phenomenal season. If you didn't know, he had 33 points in 43 games with SHL, was on pace or looked like he was going to match the Sundin twins and try to overthrow them for the best draft eligible season by a Swedish player in that league. Fell short, had another 4 points in 6 playoff games, dominated the World Juniors in his own right, and stood out in pivotal moments in the semifinal and quarterfinal, gold medal games to help Sweden win the gold medal. Now, that tournament, Gavin McKenna was more productive, but I thought that Stenberg was a little bit more impactful. Now, if the McKenna can get a little bit more of that impact to his game, I don't see why you can't still take him first overall, or you shouldn't debate about taking him first overall. But you do have a little bit of doubts, and you hope that those bad habits don't creep in. But again, because of that progression all year, it kind of felt a little bit more of a positive spin on his game, where like a lot of outlets like Elite Prospects, even seeing Stephen Ellis talk about that. He's a great prospect writer. The confidence is there that he is going to get first overall. What we're getting, yeah, they're always going to have a little bit of weaknesses, even some weaknesses to Ivar Stenberg's game. But it feels like maybe ceiling-wise, McKenna has the best bet. And if he can get to that level of a Patrick Kane and or Nikita Kucherov, those guys have Stanley Cup rings. Yeah, in their own right, they're playmakers. But if he can develop on that curve or that length, it'll work out. And I still think McKenna is the pick. But if Stenberg has a strong World Hockey Championships against seniors again, I think we're going to have another heated debate about this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gary says he thinks McKenna's got the highest ceiling. I do think overall he does. I think there's something to be said about McKenna's quick-temperedness as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't even have to go to the off-ice issues. We saw it at the tail end of the World Juniors this year. There's a little bit more of that willingness to kind of go off the rails. The wires cross a little bit with this kid, right?
A little bit of that fight in him.
Which is not a bad thing per se, but you have to know how to reel it in times of need as well, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is something that certainly stands with me. I do think Stenberg's a little bit more composed in the way that he plays his game. Very Euro-esque, right? The vibes I'm getting from this draft, and I'm not going to compare Gavin McKenna to Shane Wright in any way. Mm-hmm. But the vibes I'm getting from this draft are very 2022.
Yeah.
Right? Where the idea was that Shane Wright, the Canadian kid, was going to go number 1 to the Montreal Canadiens. They go off the mapping and take Uri Slavkovsky. It took Slavkovsky a couple years to get going, but then you look at this season and look where he's at. And now, granted, he had the team to kind of build around him. So that was a benefit as well for Slavkovsky. But at this point in time, the question starts to become in their exit interviews, Nylander and Matthews mentioned that they wanted 2 puck moving defensemen.
Yeah,
that was their big ask of Leafs management. Now, in saying that, we've had a change in Leafs management over that span. CJ came out with his article, which we'll touch on shortly here as well, about Matthews' future in Toronto. And the Leafs got the first overall pick. So I don't see the Leafs using the first overall pick to take a Carson Carrolls or Chase Reed,
yeah,
or Keaton Verhoff. I don't see that happening. Do I see them moving down? And I'm gonna have a piece over the Hockey Writers within the week on 3 possible trades for the Leafs to move down and stay within the top 5. But do you see John Chayka potentially making a move to drop that first overall pick and maybe secure themselves one of the top defensemen in this draft and get other pieces? Or is it like you got to take Gavin McKenna, you got to play it safe, and you really can't fuck this one up?
Bit of both, like because there are a lot of moving pieces and narratives with this Maple Leafs pick right now because of the fact that you got the first overall pick right now. I do agree that there's the option of possibly trading down. I mean, it is a possible scenario. Will it happen? Don't know. But when you mentioned that, I get draft day vibes with Sonny Weaver, where you have like the obvious pick, you kind of galaxy brain it a bit, you trade it, you want to get your picks back, and then you get, you know, the guy you wanted at first overall, then you get another guy later on. I mean, it does kind of make sense in a sense that if you do value defense more so right now, you do move down to like second or third. But it kind of feels like Chase Reed will be gone by then, and it feels like Toronto needs a Chase Reed kind of guy. It does the way that I'm already seeing some mocks right now. It's Gavin McKenna, Chase Reed, Stenberg, and or Manny Malhotra. I mean, Caleb Malhotra. Sorry. Bloodline there got me a little confused. You could take a Carson Carrolls, fine. I have no problem with that. And then you maybe get another forward later on. But when you've lacked the movement, even in transition and the breakout, Gavin McKenna could do just that. And he could open things up and make things a little bit more easier for Austin Matthews. That wasn't the case this year. There was no player that was able to do that where he can roam freely and get into his spot and have a player connect with him. Kind of like Mitch Marner in that regard, you know? But I do understand the notion of trading down. I kind of hope it doesn't happen because even if you do try to trade down, and I just said this before, what if Chase Reed is already gone? Kind of need that right shot a little bit more than the left. And I do like Carson Carrolls, and I think I value Reed and Carrolls a little bit more than Verhoff right now. If one of them are gone and you bank on that and then you lose out on McKenna and both are one of those top two defensemen, it is a big risk. So I think maybe it's just best to play it safe, keep the pick. You could trade down, but I don't know. I think maybe right now you play it safe, especially for Chayka too, where you're getting a lot of scrutiny already, that if you do something big and elaborate as a move, again, it can come back and bite you, and I don't want to see that happen.
That's fair. I agree with you. I think if you trade down and you miss, it's going to be a much bigger problem for you. Just going over some of the comments here as well. Viv Canna says, "Do we want composure?" I think the Leafs need somebody who's going to get their hands dirty. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Gary says basically the same thing. Matthews and Nylander are pacifists. In Via Canada, no chance Chayka will go against the fans. He needs a win, and the only play is to do what the fans want this year, rightly or wrongly. I agree. Spike says if Matthews decides to walk, the Leafs need another franchise star, so this might be a business decision.
I was about to say that is a good point because you already have a selling point right now if and when 2 years from now Matthews is gone. You at least have a good head jump start on this new rebuild.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, I get all perspectives, and that's why this is such a tough decision, not only from a fan base on what you want the GM to do, but from a GM standpoint as well. And I do believe that Chayka will go. I mean, obviously, him and Sundin will get together and figure this out, but I do believe that Chayka is going to try and go and get a win. Where there's a part of me that wants him to say, fuck everybody else because I'm already controversial. Why not take that next step and try and get this win?
Yeah.
And in saying that, I do agree with your analysis of Gavin McKenna. I think, dare I make this comparison, I think he's got more offensive upside than Mitch Marner. From a standpoint that he's a playmaker, he can go and get you 50 assists, but he's also going to put up 35 goals.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No. If you're going along the lines of him being more of a shooter than Mitch Marner, then we're definitely like thinking the same thing right now.
Yeah, I laughed at this comment. Gary, Chayka, and Mats need to keep Keith GPT away from the draft floor.
There
Yeah, you're not
was
wrong.
no. Pelly said that there was no substance to it. It was false, but
Who did the reporting? Steve Simmons?
oh god,
Kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah.
I'm obviously kidding.
I think it was that like massive like reporting from Myrtle Siegel and CJ
Yeah.
from the Athletic where they went breakdown of the season in Pelly.
Yeah. Anyways, so at this point, can we both agree that we don't trade down from the first overall pick?
Don't trade down. I think right now this is a franchise that needed a little bit of light, and they have that right now. Again, if you know for certain that you can trade with a team where you could get a first this year, a first next year, maybe a second as well for the first overall pick, and let's say you do swap with San Jose and you get Chase Reed, cool. But there's a little bit more risk of that happening. I'd rather just keep the pick.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There is a part of me that is curious if there's like this idea of the Swede connection with Sundin and Stenberg. You know, you have to wonder, right? Right now, actually, if you look at it, the odds right now for McKenna to go first overall are minus 430. So normally, if it's a given, they're around minus 2,000. Right now, he's minus 430. So it goes to show you that
there's that possibility.
Really, right now, it is up in the air. Even the odds makers are wondering which direction they're going to go. With that, just a quick word from our folks over at DraftKings Sportsbook and the Hockey Podcast Network. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a new customer offer. Bet player props, bet live from the opening faceoff to the final horn. Every moment matters. New DraftKings customers bet just $5 and you'll get $100 in bonus bets instantly.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 and over in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer.
I love that new disclaimer read. So much easier than me throwing it out there and me stumbling over my words. But anyways, so yeah, check out DraftKings. Use code THPN. Make sure you hop on and throw a few wagers out there. But anyways, I want to jump off this first overall pick. There's obviously we can talk a lot more about it. It is a win for the Leafs regardless, because whether you decide to trade it or not, you're going to get assets, and that's exactly what this team needs. It fast forwards this rebuild, albeit not a full rebuild. Retool
hope to some of the guys on the team right now.
/ it gives you the option to possibly make the move of doing a full rebuild, and then if that's the case, then you obviously go to guys like Matthews and Nylander and let them know. And I'm just going to throw this out there, but there's a lot of conversation because CJ's recent article basically outright said that if Matthews doesn't get what he wants, he's gone, even though he's got the 2 year extension, or the 2 years left on his contract. And basically his ask was near impossible for these Maple Leafs, with given the hiring, given what players want in the league right now, trying to sign, trying to trade this offseason. There's not a lot that the Leafs can do. So there's a lot of conversation. Sid Sixero is one guy that comes to mind that was saying basically the ask from Matthews is ridiculous and it's not going to happen. So he's basically telling everybody that he's already gone. So in saying that, there are some people wondering how much truth there is to what CJ is writing. And this is not questioning Chris Johnson. He's a fantastic journalist, stand-up guy. But there are some people curious of whether this is being blown out of proportion a little bit by the Toronto media. And I do want to throw this out there that there was a lot of conversations after the Leafs got first overall that suggest what if the Leafs were to move Austin Matthews to, say, San Jose for the second overall pick and a prospect? That way you have Celebrini, you have Matthews, you have Eklund, you have Will Smith, you have Mook Medulin, you have Askarov. All of a sudden you become an instant contender in San Jose. Not to mention the connection with Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, and of course Austin Matthews. So I'm going to throw that out there. I'll let that stew in the comments below, but I want to get your take real quick on Austin Matthews. Do you believe that he truly wants to go, or is this more kind of a fluff news where, hey, we got the first overall pick. Let's throw the idea of Matthews leaving out there and see what happens to the universe.
Yeah, and I read CJ's post, and I think the main selling point is wanting to see real action and real change in terms of wanting to keep him here. But at the beginning, it says, Matthews has 2 years remaining on his contract, but still isn't sure if he'll be back in Toronto in the fall. Now, to me, that kind of hints that one or two things. One, if Matthews isn't going to report in the fall and doesn't like what's happening in the offseason, then yeah, trade him or whatever. If he's not going to report, that's going to be a big issue. But also he's saying league sources. It's not anyone close to within Matthews' circle.
A lot of league sources coming out lately.
And I get you have like trusted people within other areas around the league, but to me, the only thing that matters is what Austin Matthews is thinking right now. Those league sources aren't actually saying what he's actually feeling, what's going through his mind, and everything like that. Yeah, it's just based on speculation of what needs to happen for him to stay. It's the same thing with Connor McDavid happening right now. All the league, what needs to happen is meaningful change for the Oilers to, vamp up the goaltending and the defense in order for him to stay and be a contender right now. And then we've talked about this many times before. Matthews saying, he put the future a little bit in doubt, but so be it. That's his right to see that meaningful change in action of what's going to come from this front office. And let's face it, Chayka and Sundin have only been on the job for 72 hours and won the draft lottery. So let's give them a little bit of time. They said they're going to be conducting interviews, and I think they're going to have a meaningful sit down with Matthews. He's the captain. I think they're going to have him say, we're going to rely on you. We need you to lead this team. We want you to be a part of this. But what do you want from us to help you out as well? And that means getting a different coach where you're not playing with a defensive mindset every time. Getting, guys that, play with a little bit of snarl in the bottom part of the lineup, getting a mobile puck moving defender. Yeah, that's a lot, but they need to take the necessary steps to do so. They need to get the assets to do so as well, but that's kind of hard considering how Brad Treliving in 2 years' time has basically set them back 3-4 years already. So if you're Matthews, do you give them the benefit of the doubt, or you just let it ride out for the 2 years to see what happens? And even after 1 year, you like the steps that the team has taken. They're back in a playoff spot. You like the moves, and then you could worry about an extension. I'm all for that. I was all for him saying that, listen, I can't predict the future kind of thing. Love my time being here. I love being the captain. He said all the right things he wanted to say, but it's leaving the door open. There's still that possibility of what could happen. But right now, yes, I do agree that meaningful change needs to happen for him to stay. I don't buy the fact that he's gone in the fall automatically.
No,
it's early to tell right now. Not a lot has happened. And I even said this online after the whole press conference with Chayka, Sundin, Steve Simmons, and everything like that. I hope these two guys cook and they prove everyone wrong that have doubted them before they even had anything to do or any move that they made.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I agree with everything you said. To be honest, I think right now they're gonna, like you said, they're gonna have a conversation with Matthews. I think they bring him into this conversation of the first overall pick, albeit they don't have to. At the end of the day, it's a management decision. But I think involving him in the conversation shows that they want him to be a major piece of this organization. And I think there's a part of him that wants to be a part of this organization as well, and have that loyalty and have that growth and have that success in Toronto. We've talked about this before. If the Maple Leafs ever make it to that point where we're having the conversation about a Stanley Cup, this city's going to be wild, right? Like this is it's not even going to be it's not like you are the second you have a little bit of playoff success, you're a hero in that city, and that's the crazy part about Marner was that all you needed was a couple of rounds wins, and all of a sudden they're talking about you in the same context as a Wendell Clark and a Dougie Gilmore and players of that magnitude. You didn't need to win a cup, but I think they want to have that success here. At least Matthews. I truly believe Nylander does too. But anyways, in saying that, it's interesting because this whole conversation ties into the conversation of the new hires, right? And Matt Sundin coming back, John Chayka taking over as GM. Super controversial move by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And yet here we are. We're going to be having this conversation all season long. We're going to be having this conversation leading up to the draft. We're going to have this conversation leading up to free agency, and we've got to sit back and understand that John Chayka is the new GM. So, with that in mind, you saw the press conference. What were your takeaways from one, the hire, but two, the way that it all kind of unfolded?
Yeah, again, the hire itself, I mean, there were a lot of candidates that probably could have been available for them. And I get it's a little bit of a talking point and a little bit of, a take to go with John Chayka because of what happened previously with Arizona. It was honestly, and I compare this to his first time too, there was a lot of heated debate and discussion about him taking over as a young GM of a struggling franchise already, and this was already also at like the early onset or like the breakout of the analytics era, and he was a big proponent of that. Now it's the same thing happening again, but with a different tone because of his failed history with Arizona or with the Phoenix Coyotes at that point, because of how things went ugly, because of his suspension and everything like that. I get there being some reservation and doubt, but I'm also willing to see him and give him a chance to learn from his mistakes. I said this multiple times before, and I've had conversations. If, guys like Brad Treliving and everyone else over the years can get multiple jobs time in, time out, and fail time over and over again, and they get multiple opportunities to try and run a team and they run them to the ground, John Chayka is coming back for a second time, and they're already crucifying him because of his takes, because of what he values, how he goes about his business. I mean, to me, that's a double standard right there. If you're okay with Dave Nonis running three or four franchise, I can't remember how many teams he was GM of, but if you're okay with Dave Nonis coming back multiple times, Brian Burke, Brad Treliving, and the list goes on too. It's not just those three guys. There have been other GMs in the past that have failed and still got job opportunities constantly. To me, this is Chayka's second go round, and I think and I hope that he has learned his mistakes from the first time around. He's adapted a little bit more. You can't really focus. I'm a big proponent of analytics. I think they tell a story, but they don't tell the whole story sometimes. So I feel like maybe he's going to find that middle ground where you focus on the numbers, and maybe Sundin focuses on the eye test aspect a little bit. And even seeing the whole video of Sundin with the lottery numbers, there's a joke that Chayka's being the analytics guy, Sundin being the eye test guy kind of thing right then and there. So I do think that, yes, it's a heated discussion. I get his history. And even so, I believe, I can't remember who the reporter was, but they asked about his history, and he didn't go into full details about that. And I get people wanted to know what happened, what he learned from it. But also, if he's not comfortable talking about it and he wants to keep that private, that's his business. It's his right to do so. And again, this isn't like a major, conflict or a major issue plaguing someone within the league. It was ugly. It did lead to a suspension, but it wasn't, I say, as bad as some other storylines that we need accountability from, if that makes sense. Yeah. And there's another one too. Stan Bowman could get another job too after his history in Chicago. Different circumstance, I will say that, but he got another job after he came back, given what happened with the Blackhawks. I will say, again, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm willing to give and be less critical than some other members of the media 72 hours in after him being named GM, or even like 10, 15 minutes because of what Steve Simmons said. And I'm probably going to have a lot to say about that anyways. I'm just willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I get it's a little bit uneasy for a lot of the fan base, but I do believe in second chances. And if he can, find something that he learned from in the past, I'm all for it. And hopefully it can lead to the success of this team.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think the key that you brought up was all these second chances, right? I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to come in here hot. I'm glad we talked about the first overall pick first, because I know if we talked about the draft, the hiring of Chayka and Sundin in the press conference, I would have gone off the rails. And you know me, when I go off on a heated monologue,
and it would take the fun away from the draft lottery and the actual victory.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, in saying that, I want to make damn sure that everyone understands I'm not 100% on board with John Chayka.
Yeah.
And not because I don't think he can do the job, but because he does not have a history of winning, right? And it was short-lived. Mm-hmm. It was short-lived, but I want to make sure that everyone gets this right. And this goes to every other fan base, that goes to Leafs Nation, goes to everybody that's doubting this hiring. You have to give him the opportunity, because when he was first hired by the Phoenix Coyotes, he was 22 years old in a market that was not built for success. Yeah. Run by a league that was favoring this team because it was Gary Bettman's brainchild, and multiple owners. There was no stability within that market, and that's not to say that hockey can't work in there. I'm saying that they need to find a way to look at this from an outside perspective and say he was not set up for success. At 22 years old, I mean, you and I have played fantasy hockey how many times? And I can tell you at 22 years old, I thought I had a winning franchise too. I think I finished last in my pool.
I felt like I was a good GM whenever I won a league championship.
You make mistakes. And the one that kills me right now is Paul Bissonnette, and I think it's all for show. But he's like, I'm off the train. What they did to Doan wanted to be a part of the organization, and there was no stability there. And a 22-year-old wasn't able to make that choice. And I can guarantee you that it wasn't John Chayka's decision not to involve Shane Doan in an organization that he practically built and helped stabilize in the desert for the time that they did. So you have to give him the opportunity. For all the naysayers, and this goes to the Steve Simmons 19 people that he spoke to.
I just want to jump in there for one quick from Craig Morgan. I'm glad that there was one person in there that called out Steve Simmons and said, "Hey, you didn't talk to me about John Chayka, and I have great things to say about him."
Yeah, and that's the part that I'm struggling with, is because I fucking hope that those 19 people didn't want to give Carter Hart a second chance, didn't want to give Stan Bowman a second chance, didn't want to give Joel Quenneville a second chance, because 2 out of those 3 right now are in the NHL playoffs vying for a Stanley Cup, about one of them possibly getting their name on the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And if you're going to question a guy who tried to get the upper hand at a draft combine and whether he deserves a second chance, then you better as hell have questioned the opportunity for the others to get a second chance.
I was just about to say, what demographic did Steve Simmons talk to? Because it kind of felt like it's like the way the number was kind of skewed. 19 out of 20 agree that this is a sham hire, and basically saying that like only one person agreed. Who did he actually talk to? Is it a lot of those people that think like him? They're in the old boys club and everything like that. Were those the guys that he just primarily targeted and didn't branch out to other aspects? Is it just the people that hates analytics, kind of like him, where he's set in his own mind and isn't open to new ways of thinking? That's what I'm curious about. I'm curious to know about that too. But on the note of Simmons, I get wanting to ask the tough questions, and rightfully so. I think we needed to ask about his history and ask Keith Pelley that if this is the right man for the job based on what happened, what transpired previously before. Yes, I'm all for asking tough questions. That's what journalism is all about. But when you went in with the aggressive mindset and the intimidating tone that he had to try and prove that he was right, with some sort of vendetta against him, against the team, and everybody else, that is just true unprofessionalism at its best. I really think that is the case right there, and it just shows that that's his character. It shows that nonstop. And I get you want to stir the pot, you want to be a little controversial, but there's always a better way of saying and wording a question. Like I just basically thought of a better way to say it right now. You know, he does have a history. You know, what are your thoughts? Is this the correct hire or right man for the job based on what happened? You can easily be critical of his past, but say it in a polite way. He didn't even say that. And to me, with everything that he said, with trying to be that, having that vendetta against him already for a guy that just is being hired in his moment right then and there, and asking, I still think he only asked specific players. Then again, I'm not him, or specific league sources. It's counterintuitive to what you're trying to do because you want to get a full picture on everything right now. And for him to say what he said or the tone that he said it really is unprofessional. And it just doesn't surprise me given what he's able to do or what he's done in the past. We've seen him go behind people's back especially with Austin Matthews and his medical records too. And Austin Matthews calling him out on that.
The Phil Kessel hot dog story, it was all BS.
Yeah.
It was all BS. Steve Simmons is a plug.
It's all sensationalism right now. It's all him trying to stir the pot. You can stir the pot for the right reasons, but he's doing it for the wrong reasons right now.
I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent here for a second.
Man. I just went on one right now. You're free to do so.
It's all good. I know we wanted to kind of keep it short today, but we do have to address it. Gary makes a great point. Steve Simmons made it all about him and distracted from the reason they were there. Not one of them welcomed Matt Sundin back to Toronto. Not one of them welcomed John to Toronto. They made it about the history of John Chayka.
Yeah.
Another great point. All of the hockey men failed in Toronto.
Yeah.
Brian Burke couldn't get it done. John Ferguson Jr. couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
You name it, right? Like they couldn't get it done. Spike, we're going to get to your other comment in a sec, but Chayka's 2017, 2018, 2019 drafts were rough.
They were.
He is not going to be the only one drafting here, though. They've got Leach. They've got Mark Leach, who's had incredible drafts. And this is only his second year with the Leafs in terms of their drafting.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee you that they're going to have a better draft than what John Chayka's history shows them.
Mm-hmm.
We got to look at all aspects of the draft. It's not John Chayka walking up there and saying, I pick you. That's not how the draft works.
The Leafs do have a good scouting department. I will say that, and I feel confident heading into this draft.
Next up, Gary makes another great point. How many smart decisions are made as a 26-year-old? Forget about running a... Buddy, I'm 37. I still don't make smart decisions. Let alone running an NHL franchise.
We still make mistakes. You know, it's life, but that's the whole thing.
It's not just Simmons. James Myrtle and Steve Dangle have said hockey people told them similar things about Chayka. But told them what? Because everyone's claiming that they talked to 20 some odd hockey people, and you know, they tell him that he's not a great GM. Okay, so have they talked to people about Stan Bowman? Stan Bowman doesn't have a great history of being a GM either.
Pierre Dorian's up for the Vancouver job. Possibly.
Pierre Dorian doesn't have a great history. Like, I'm wondering what the conversations were here, Spike, because the conversations, if he's a bad GM, well, then who gives a shit? Give him an opportunity, right? now you've got an advisor who's, doesn't have the experience, but has played hockey, has over the last 10 years had a lot to say about how this franchise can turn it around. And really, I've bought into a lot of what Matt Sundin has to say about what he would do if he were to be in a management role with the Leafs. So I'm on board with this. As I mentioned before,
I think
I'm not.
Sundin is there to ground and support Chayka. I think that's the reason why he's there.
And Gary, what about Simmons' track record? Bautista, Kessel, Matthews, and many other stories. He either lied or used questionable morals when he reported.
There is no ethical standards.
Look at from a journalistic standpoint, he has every right to hide his sources. He has every right to claim that they are anonymous sources. He has every right from a journalistic standpoint. From a journalistic standpoint, you also have to show integrity, and there's a history of lack of integrity here as well. There's a history of a lack of integrity here as well. And that's what's at play, right? It's not the fact that Steve Simmons is a bad human being. I don't know Steve Simmons from a fucking hole in the wall. So he could be a great human being. The fact is his reporting has holes in it. And when your reporting has holes in it and you claim you have 20 anonymous sources and 19 of which are saying that this is a shitty hire, then there's going to be questions about your storytelling. And frankly, if you want to hijack a fucking press conference for an NHL franchise because you think you're above everybody else
Save that for your opinion piece, man.
In asking a legitimate question, but do so with some respect and some integrity. It comes down to integrity. You could have asked that exact same question without the con man, liar, blah 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 blah. And if those are direct quotes, then you should be talking about who your sources are because you're using a direct quote from these people. That's not him making those up. He's saying it's a direct quote.
And again, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I came up with a better, more respectable version of Simmons' question just on the spot right now. It's not that hard. It really isn't to come up with a question with a serious tone, but still being respectful in that regard. There was no respect in that at all. It was just attack. I get it. Again, you want to ask that tough question, but to me, it should only escalate if your initial response was a little bit more of an attack on you. And to be honest, Pelly just responded back. We talked to different people. There was no need for you to escalate that even more.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think Keith Pelly's a meathead for the way, like, I don't know.
I honestly, there are a lot of people that still don't trust Keith Pelly. He still needs to get in my good books as well, because some things he has said and done, I still don't trust. But I do have more faith, and I hope that Chayka and Sundin prove a lot of people wrong themselves to try and get people onto their good side. That's my hope.
Yeah, and I mean, in the sense that, like, you know, the entire press conference ended up being a debacle, and it shouldn't have. It shouldn't have. You're welcoming arguably one of the top 5 captains in franchise history back to the organization in a leadership role.
Deal with that.
And he was a side piece to a date between Steve Simmons and MLSE. And that's what I have a problem with, is that you made it about a grudge that seems to be ongoing rather than focusing on the fact that, hey, this team is going to head in a different direction and they're not recycling the same old boys club that the rest of the league has done. And I think that's the important takeaway from it.
So
and
they're not getting the guys that you want.
Right. And I think, you know what? I wish the Leafs had gotten somebody that would give them a better quote. Like, you know, Brian Burke used to do with Steve Simmons. Like that, those are the ones that I would like to see.
Talk to you anymore? Or?
Exactly. That was a highlight, right? Or even when Phil Kessel told Dave Fezchuk that he's an idiot. Like, those are the things that, like, some of these guys need to be tempered as well, right? From a hockey media standpoint, from a sports media standpoint, you need to be walked back a few feet every once in a while. And I think that's what Keith Pelly, albeit his response wasn't ideal, did with his. We did our deep due diligence. We talked to different people, and man,
he was a little too respectful.
He was a little too respectful.
Yeah,
you talk to 20 people. there's 500 fucking people within an organization. So you talk to 20 people in hockey, there's more people in hockey than you've got, dollars in your bank account. That's what I would have said. But anyways, with that said, I think I got my piece out. I think I'm sitting a little bit better. My eyes stopped twitching from all the stress. Anyways,
you're grounded yourself right now.
Yeah. Before we picked up something a couple episodes ago, buy or sell. We'll get to that in just a second. But before we do, quick breakdown on the playoffs here. Obviously, most of the series have started. As our friend earlier in the the Canadians and the Buffalo Sabres do kick off tonight. It's going to be a hell of a series. I think there's going to be some crazy beatdowns in that series. I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard to play in. So we're looking forward to that. Marner's stepped it up for Vegas in that series as Vegas has taken a 2-0 lead on the Anaheim Ducks. So that series is well on its way. As well, the Colorado Avalanche are up in their series as well. Like I said from the beginning, I think Colorado is the pick here to go all the way. They just seem to get it done. Makar, there was a scare there earlier in the series. Makar went down, left the ice, but did return to score a goal. Kadri seemed to step it up. McKinnon's an absolute dog. And Minnesota hasn't had the scoring yet from their top guys like Matt Boldy and Kirill Kaprizov. Finally, the Philadelphia Flyers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Philadelphia down 2-0. They just called up Jet Luchenko as well to possibly get him in the lineup from the Brantford Bulldogs of the OHL. So we'll see how that plays out as well. If he gets into a playoff game, it's gonna be interesting to see. Gary's right on line with you, I think, Peter. He's gotten 2 series right so far.
Actually. Yeah, 2 of the 3 series I'm up 2-1. I picked Anaheim over Vegas for reasons, but Colorado's up 2-0. I did pick them to win, and Carolina's up 2-0. I'd also face basically those 2 teams are my final matchup.
There you go. We'll get our graphic up on the old X account shortly here, where we have our updated first round picks and then our second round picks heading into these middle part of these series as well.
I was about to say, I went 3-5 in the first round. That rarely happens.
Yeah. And then of course Gary says McKinnon nearly killed Boldy last night. Yeah, Boldy had a tough time getting up on that one.
He had a rough night with McKinnon. Yeah,
that's what the Leafs need though. They need a dog like McKinnon, a guy that can put up 50 goals and still rock you in the corner when you're not expecting it. So, Gary's got Avs and Hurricanes as well.
Nice.
How crazy would it be if it was Avs Montreal and the Avs wore the Nordiques jersey in Montreal?
Oh, they got to do that now.
How
they got to do that just for the narrative.
That would be insane. That'd be
perfect.
Insane. Anyways, you said you got a little buy and sell before we close it out. Yeah. What do you got for me?
Couple buy and sells, and I think the first one is you've already mentioned it, that you already picked Colorado, but buyer is selling that Colorado will break the President's Trophy curse and win the Stanley Cup.
Buy. This sounds crazy. Throughout the year, I took out 3 futures on them to win the cup. So at different odds, on board with that then, yeah. Different odds throughout the year. Now that being said, that doesn't mean much. I took a futures out on Minnesota. I took a futures out on Buffalo. So those are my 3 I'm chasing. Yeah. But I think Colorado's got all the pieces. Scott Wedgwood is having like an incredible season. Mm-hmm. Just continues to impress. And like the addition of Brent Burns on the back end there was huge for them. McKinnon's an absolute dog. McKinnon's playing possessed. He lost at the Olympics. He wants the win now. It's going to happen. Yeah. And that's going to be crazy to watch as this playoffs continues to go. And you haven't even gotten your backup scoring from Lehkonen and Nichushkin so far this year. You've had a couple goals from each, but that's it. Nazem Kadri's underrated in the addition that he brings to that team as well. Colorado for the cup, no doubt.
Second one, buy or sell. Morgan Riley is going to be dealt, and he will ask to be waived his no move clause and will be dealt.
I think I'm going to buy that one only because I think I think the writing's on the wall. I think he knows he wants to stay. I don't have any doubt in my mind that he wants to stay. He wants to be a loyal piece to that organization. He's stuck with them through the highs and the lows. They've stuck with him through the highs and the lows. But I think it's the writing's on the wall for him, and I think because of that he's going to open the door to a possible trade to certain organizations. And I think we see him moved, if not in the offseason, very early in the year to accommodate his request and the team that he wants to go to. It's unfortunate, really, but at a certain point, it is a business, and with this team heading in the direction they are, with Matthews and Nylander both asking for puck moving defensemen, it's too convenient.
This is in another alternate reality where the Maple Leafs didn't win the first overall pick, but still maintained their fifth. So the Maple Leafs still have the fifth overall, or let's even throw in second overall pick. Buy or sell, the Maple Leafs would have taken a forward or defenseman at second or fifth overall.
I think if they get second or fifth, they take a defenseman.
Yeah.
I mean, second, you'd have to go Chase Reed because he's the best on the table. Mm-hmm. At fifth, I would argue if you could get Carson Carrolls, that you go Carson Carrolls. But yeah, I would say absolutely they take a defenseman. I think first overall throws a little bit of a wrench in that plan because of who's available at number one. But you can't go off the board at number one and take a defenseman at this point.
Nope, I wholeheartely agree. And even if it was fifth overall too, if all the defenders were taken, Michaela Malhotra is right there, and you solidify your middle. If everything kind of broke down as it should, and Malhotra is available, then you kind of take him. I know you're a big Tynan Lawrence fan as well. Him as a second center or a slot behind, Austin Matthews in the future if JT retires, who knows? But yeah, I do agree. I'm with you on their defense all the way for those two picks.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, guys, episode 235 went a little longer than we thought, but we had a lot to talk about.
We loved it anyways.
Yeah, with that in mind, anything before we close it out here?
Nope, just working on who should the Maple Leafs draft at first overall? It's basically coming down to one of two guys, but mainly for McKenna, but also don't count out Stenberg.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you check out the Hockey Writers. Make sure you check out the Hockey Podcast Network. In the comments below or in the show description, we also have promo codes for BioSteel as well as SeatGeek. Check out the DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code THPN for all the great deals. Outside of that, that's all we got this week for episode 235 of the Sticks and Six podcast. For Peter and myself, we look forward to the draft in this upcoming summer. Until next time, episode 236. That's all we got. We leave you with our friend Alex Hobson and his hit 25.